The Locked On Podcast Network presents the NBA Big 3 in 30. The 3 biggest stories in the NBA from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The NBA Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest stories in the NBA.
Damian Lamont Ollie Lillard is coming back to the Portland Trailblazers.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast.
He's back. He's back. The greatest Trailblazer of the 21st century, a franchise icon, one of the greatest players to ever wear a Trailblazers jersey, has decided to return home. The agreement was first reported by Bill Oram of the Oregonian, and then the details later reported by ESPN. Damian Lillard, who was just a free agent local basketball player, local dad, living in Portland, has decided to return. He agreed to a 3-year, $42 million deal to return for the Portland Trailblazers. That will take him through the 25-26 season that he's likely to miss, and then 26-27, and if he so chooses and it opts in, 27-28. Obviously, he could opt out and sign for more money or sign a different contract, etc., etc. Damian Lillard is 2 days removed from celebrating his 35th birthday. Happy birthday, Dame. He is likely to miss all of this season as he recovers from an Achilles tear. He tore his Achilles on April 27th in the first quarter of Game 4 of the Bucks first-round playoff series. He has surgery to repair that Achilles on May 2nd. Later, the Bucks decided to waive and stretch the 2 years and over $100 million remaining on Damian Lillard's contract. He still gets that money. I believe he just gets paid on time, just like his normal NBA contract. But the Bucks decided to move on from Dame after 2 years in Milwaukee to sort of maximize their ability to be as competitive as possible this season, or perhaps to make some tough decisions. Whether they are right or wrong, we shall see. But with Dame likely on the shelf for this season, Milwaukee just needed to or chose to go in another direction. So Dame now enters free agency with the money still coming to him, $50 million this year, whatever it is, and he gets to make his decision. And there was the initially reported right away by Chris Haynes of Chris Haynes. I don't believe he has an affiliation right now, of Chris Haynes. Chris Haynes of Chris Haynes. He reported that, it was like Miami and Portland are the 2 places I would look out for. And then there were some other spots that people were floating around that he could possibly end up Boston. I don't think there was much interest from Dame, but people were saying, hey, Minnesota could make sense for Damian Lillard. Yeah, okay, all these spots, right? And then there was some reporting that Damian Lillard, one of the challenges was he wanted to be in Portland, Oregon. And any team that he chose to sign was going to probably have to reckon with the fact that one of the hardest parts about him moving to Milwaukee is that his family didn't come with him. Due to whatever, this relationship with his kid's mom, like they got divorced. They didn't move with him. They're here. His extended family's here. His mom lives here. A bunch of his other extended family lives here. This is Damian Lillard's home in the off season. Not only are his kids here, this is like still home for him as an adult as well. And so one of the challenges of being in Milwaukee was just being away from all that, being away from home, being away from your children, all of the sort of challenges of demanding NBA job is not only do you not get to see your kids very much, even when they're in the same city as you certainly don't get to see their kids very much when they're thousands of miles away. And so Dame said, hey, if I'm, the reporting was like, if you want to have me on your team, part of it is that I want to be in Portland. This is the place that I think of as home. Dame spent the first 11 years of his career here. He moved here as a 22-year-old and left as a 33-year-old. He did a lot of growing up here. He was the most powerful person in Portland at one point. One time, he sent out a tweet complaining that there were no fans in the arena during the COVID season of 2021, and by the end of the week, there were fans in the arena. Dude has pull at the governor's office. And instead of saying, well, I'm going to live in Portland because that's where I want to be, and maybe I'll sign a contract. And there is like a way in which Dame actually could have maintained his free agency up through the end of the year and signed a contract with another team in the spring and still maintained some of his contractual bonuses that would come with it, some bird rights stuff that would come with it, allow him to get paid more money down the line. He didn't do that. Instead, Portland, chilling with 13 roster spots spoken for and 2 roster spots open and money to spend because of the decisions they made, including waiving DeAndre Ayton and him giving some money back in the process, with money to spend and an open roster spot, Dame and the Blazers have decided it's reunion time. It's reunion time. He's coming back. Holy cow. There is a lot to unpack here that I will imagine we will do over the coming months. What I want to do briefly to close to wrap up the show here, because this is going to be like a 20-minute program. They usually are about a half hour. Because we can come back. The Blazers are currently, right now, I've just started playing a Summer League game. So I'm going to go watch that, and then we'll talk about the Summer League game after that. But first of all, this puts such a weird coda, a weird bow on the Damian Lillard trade. On July 1st, 2023, Damian Lillard officially requested a trade. By that point, in the beginning of July, in the summer of 2023, it was inevitable that the marriage was going to end. It was just how it was going to end. But based on like the decisions the Blazers had made, the decision to not trade the number 3 overall draft pick and draft Scoot, it was really about the pick not being traded, not specifically Scoot. Pretty much would have been anybody there. It's not like Amen Thompson would have saved the franchise, but like or saved Dame, I guess. But he may very well have saved the franchise. Pretty good. But like, because of the events of the summer of 2023 and some of the moves that quite frankly, that Joe Cronin had made around those decisions, it was inevitable that Dame was gone. And then 4 months later, he gets traded to Milwaukee. And the initial trade is a 3-team deal with Milwaukee, Phoenix, and Portland. And the Blazers received Drew Holiday, DeAndre Ayton, Toumani Camara, and a couple draft picks, or an unprotected 2029 pick from the Bucks and a couple swaps. But Drew is not part of the plan. He wants to be rerouted. The Blazers acquiesce. They find out a place he can go, and they send him to Boston. He never plays here. I don't really believe in like the full transitive property of trade, so we're not going to get into Deni Avdija here in this particular trade, but you can on your own if you like. But the Drew trade is like another subsequent immediate trade that happened before a basketball game was played and only involved trading Drew Holiday. So I think you could group those together as sort of larger part of the Dame trade. Drew goes to Boston. Blazers acquire Malcolm Brogdon, Robert Williams, a 2024 first-round pick, and a 2029 unprotected pick from the Celtics. Brogdon and a couple of the picks acquired in this trade would eventually be used to trade for Deni Avdija. In my mind, not part of the Dame package, but you could see why it would be easy. Then this summer, the Blazers traded Anthony freaking Simons for Drew Holiday, acquiring him a second time. And then a few weeks later, they signed Damian Lillard. They just acquired the player they traded Dame for and brought Dame back in the same summer. The total package for what they sent out and what came back for Dame is like, if you really want to get into it, it's like Yusuf Nurkic, Anthony Simons, Nazir Little, and Keon Johnson. They traded those 4 players to end up with, in the very least, depending on how you want to count it, Drew Holiday, Toumani Camara, and Damian Lillard. 2 years later. It's wild. I also want to address something, and we'll do that after the break here. A couple weeks ago on this very podcast, I said that it wasn't time for Damian Lillard to return. I sat here and shared my opinion that now, this offseason, when Dame entered free agency, this was not the time to bring Damian Lillard back.
We've all been there, logging on early and waiting forever for concert tickets to go on sale, only to lose your spot for a show you've been dying to see. Live music should be about making memories, not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping. That's where Gametime comes in. Gametime makes getting concert tickets faster and easier than ever. Prices actually drop as it gets closer to showtime, and you can save up to 60% off with their killer last-minute deals. If you're tired of endless scrolling, trying to find the best deals, Gametime zone deals pick the best seats in your section for you. And with Gametime, the price you see is the price you pay. No hidden fees. Take the guesswork out of buying concert tickets and show tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, the lowest price guaranteed.
Joel Embiid in a tell-all piece on ESPN.
You are
Locked On 76ers, your daily Philadelphia 76ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
There's a long article. I feel like we were doing a book report almost on Joel Embiid by ESPN, and it really is a tell-all piece. His background, the host people he lived with in Florida when he was just leaving Africa, just leaving Cameroon. It tells all about his time just starting up with the 76ers, being drafted, all the way up to present day. It is absolutely a deep dive into Joel Embiid's career to this point as a basketball player, as a Jayhawk, as a 76er. There's a lot of stuff in here that I didn't know about. Maybe you didn't know about. I'm curious to see what you found a bit surprising about all of it. But my main three takeaways are Joel Embiid does not trust anybody, pretty much, even to the point of leaving cash around his apartment back in the day just to see if anybody would steal it. He has major trust issues. Those worked its way over to the 76ers. My second takeaway is in the early goings, especially, as much as he might have been messed up with injury, the Sixers were messed up as an organization, and Burner Gate with Brian Colangelo was just the tip of the iceberg. And then finally, what's most important for Sixers fans, my takeaway is no timeline for a return. And if there's anything he said in the article about the injury that he has right now and recovering from surgery, he is simply not going to push it. First question I have for you, Keith, is there anything in that article that made you raise your eyebrows and go, that's a little surprising, or I didn't know that, or I never heard it explained like that? What jumped out to you?
I think a lot of it did. I mean, to be honest with you. Well, I mean, here's the thing. The big thing is it was more of an explanation because, Joel can be like an introvert, so to speak. A guy who guys say, you come in, he comes into practice in the locker room and he doesn't speak. You know what I mean? Like they would say that. He just always kept to himself. So to me, the big thing was the explanation, and it basically started when, he got to that house at the Rock Hill and he was living with that family, and he would basically stay in his room. And then you realize why he has trust issues. So to me, I feel like the reporter did a very good job of letting Joel explain why he feels that way. Also, why when Joel does, and it was like the guy, he did break it down. Like when Joel talks to you, you always got the sense that he was being dismissive and he was doing certain things, but he was actually doing them to see what type of response you would get. Also, he did certain things because he kind of realized it would get under your skin. Prime example, when you would interview Joel, is basically he's sitting there before you talk to him, watching the game on his phone. And you're saying to yourself, like, dude, everybody's on deadline. Why is he doing this? But by reading this, he was doing this to this guy, but it's his way of seeing how people react. So to me, that was that. There were certain things that, I wish that, and I like the article, but, when he said that, the team was trying to push him back early on, I wish that part would have came out sooner, years ago, because the side that people were saying was that Joel wasn't taking the rehab serious at that time, and that led to the foot not getting healed, right? So, you know what I mean? So to me, I would have liked to hear that part years ago, or at least have somebody, the doctor coming back and saying, well, no, this is what happened. You know what I'm saying? So
absolutely.
For me, that was one of the things, the James Harden relationship, you kind of knew that him and James aren't cool anymore. Like, from what I hear, like maybe there's other guys on the team who left who don't speak to him anymore as well. And, Joel was kind of explaining that the reason why is because he doesn't go in there and he doesn't feel like it's his job to say, keep this guy or make this guy leave or make him leave. So, it was an insightful article. I will say that. Now, it was long. Really long, like, dude, it was like, I was trying to read it on my phone, and you know how you like, go, I'm saying, you gotta start over again, not start over, you get it back, and then scroll back to where
you get a text message. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, keep going.
Yeah. And the one guy did say his PR guy, the personal therapist, Kim. It was great because she was always around, and then all of a sudden you don't see her anymore. And the crazy part is the guy who works for him now is Tobias Harris's former trainer.
Oh, geez.
But yeah, she's not around. And like the part that got me was where the lady was crying. The host mom was crying.
Yeah.
And then Kim came back and said, "This is going to be the first year I'm not going to be invited to Arthur's birthday party," and got emotional over that. So that really, you're like, oh. but those are certain things that stood out.
Yeah, I want to, for people who haven't read it yet, I also want to say this is a personal piece more than it is a basketball piece. The things I get from it from the basketball world really have to do with Joel Embiid's injury, as you were just alluding to, and this is the first injury. This is the injury that kept him out of playing through the first 2 years of his career. He has a real big trust issue, to go back to that. The Sixers, he thought, weren't handling him properly. It wasn't a matter of him, according to him, wasn't a matter of him not eating properly or not taking the rehab serious. He didn't trust what the Sixers were telling him. He's like, this isn't healing. This is hurting. I don't like this. This isn't right. And the Sixers, according to him, were kind of pushing him along this entire process. And he goes to the doctor finally a year later. And the doctor's like, yeah, this isn't healing. And it was like Joel Embiid felt vindicated in that moment. Like, I told you guys this wasn't healing. It was also stunning to learn that the first person apparently overseeing Joel Embiid's recovery after being drafted by the Sixers, was an intern. That doesn't seem responsible, Keith. That seems rather negligent. Was that surprising?
But I want to see what type of, because you remember they had a guy, Dr. David Martin. They had some other people who were like on call with the 76ers. So my question is, it seems very negligent. But at the same time, I want to know who the intern was and what was his credentials. Because if it was somebody who you hired and you say, okay, this guy is coming here and we can only give you a quote unquote internship, because you don't have nobody, like, in my opinion, I find it hard to believe that you have an actual intern.
Right. Yeah.
Treating the face of the franchise. So I need to know who that guy. Now, I wish that they would have said who he was so we could all like cut and paste the name and do a Google search and see what his credentials were. It was before he came here, because to me, that sounds kind of like bizarre,
negligent. Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm not saying that it didn't happen, but at the same time, I'm telling you, like, the guys that they had here, I don't know. I don't remember seeing an intern. Now, I do remember seeing, like, a personal trainer working with them and stuff like that. But in regards to being overseeing it, because think about it, this is the NBA. How do you have an intern? Honestly, how do you have an intern working with a franchise player? I don't see it. I don't see it.
The thought that jumped to mind was maybe it's not a medical intern overseeing Joel Embiid's rehab or anything like that, but maybe it's just an intern reporting to management. This is what he did today. This is what he's doing. This is what I heard from the doctors. That's kind of the way I took it, just because it would be so outlandish to think of it in any other way. And again, to use the word negligent. And then after that, Hinkie's the one that brought in David Martin, who had experience in Australia with these players, and basically said, if you had to rehab a 7-footer with navicular bone fracture, how would you deal with this? And that's where Martin kind of guided this whole, to use the word again, process, with Joel Embiid and trying to get him back into shape. And then a year later, after they get the first surgery x-ray back, he then proceeds to have another surgery and then misses a second season. The other thing that I could take from this article, Keith, is apparently Joel Embiid knows who the snitch was in Miami that let the media know what was said, and that Tyrese Maxey called him out for being late to meetings and bringing the whole vibe of the team down and all that. He didn't say it was, he was, I'll leave the past in the past, but said that player might not be, or it's hard to have that player still around. So then the reporter asked him, well, who's this? He goes, I'm not going to say, I'm not going to name him, but he might still be around. I don't know. And it goes back and forth with the reporter. And he says, you don't know who's on your team? And he said, well, it's still free agency. I mean, look, I think I have an idea of who they're alluding to. I'll say it. I think it's Kyle Lowry, to be honest. I don't know if you have an opinion on the matter. I know you're a lot closer to the situation than I am. But when that part of the story came up, yeah, I'm going to leave it in the past, but it still bothers me. That was definitely an eyebrow raiser for me.
Yeah, but see, I don't like that comment right there, because I feel like if you're going to come out and say it. Because now you got certain guys catching strays. Yeah, so like, I don't know who it was. I mean, he said for a while he knew who it was. But at the same time, I also think that Joel is the master of getting the message out there, but not giving you enough information, right? So where that comes out, it's said. Now, again, I get it, and I get what people are saying, but at the same time, like, I hope, because people start saying Eric Gordon's name, Eric Gordon comes out, he responds and say, that's not how I get down. And typically, to be honest with you, when you have like veteran players, they tend to try to keep stuff in the house as close to the vets, right? Mm-hmm. They just try to. But here's the thing, dude. If it's going to be like, if it was all the coaches and it was all the players in there, it could have been anyone. Yeah. It could have been anyone. You know what I mean? So, that's the deal. That's the deal. And again, it's like, I don't know. I can't really speak to it. And I'm not going to come out and say who I think it is on a podcast and not knowing who it is. So I just feel like I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. And the thing is, like, the deal was, let's be honest. We weren't about who the snitch was, but nobody lied and said what was said was true or false.
Right. Yeah. You're just mad that it got out. That's
yeah.
All. Yeah. It didn't go down like that. It went down like this. No. You're just mad it got out. And I get that. I certainly get that.
Ever wish managing your money felt easier? Maybe the Cincinnati Bengals do. With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year.
Apparently, the Bulls and Josh Giddey are as much as $10 million apart.
You are Locked On Bulls, your daily Chicago Bulls podcast.
Josh Giddey, far apart, $10 million. Let's have that conversation.
Yeah, Josh Giddey, Chicago Bulls, far apart on contract. How you feeling, Pat?
Listen, I think where you're at right now with the Bulls and Josh Giddey, this is exactly where I said this yesterday on Chicago Bulls Breeze. This is what you expected almost of AK when nobody else really has the money to do it. I shouldn't say of AK. This is what you expect from a good GM. I think it surprises us that AK is doing it, right? you're going to lowball. Josh Giddey's going to have his number. You're going to try and meet in the middle to find a way to save some money. The expectation is not that Josh Giddey is going to be a $20 million player. I don't think that this is we're looking to disrespect Josh Giddey and offer him the lowest deal possible. I think this is just how you negotiate contracts, how you negotiate deals. You come in with one number, the player comes in with another, and you find a way to meet in the middle. Now, if I am Josh Giddey, the conversation that I'm having is, okay, you want me to take $5 million less? Bet. I'll take $5 million less. You're going to give me a year back on this deal. I'm either getting a player option or this is going to be a 4-year deal and not a 5-year deal. In that situation, now both sides are giving up something that they would rather have. Bulls would rather get Giddey in here on a 5-year deal versus a 4-year deal so that you don't have to worry about that money in the future. Giddey gets to hit free agency a little bit earlier. Both sides give up something that each side wants in a sense. And you find a way to be very amicable in that situation. I don't think this is going to hurt the long-term relationship of the Bulls and Giddey. And dare I say, I think it's a pretty good GMing by AK.
Well, it depends on, I can't say for sure if it's going to hurt or not. Like, it depends on how disrespectful they feel the $20 million offer is. Yes, I agree with you. It is negotiating, and it is something that we're not used to AK doing it, especially not at this level. But I tell you what, if I'm looking at P. Will and I'm like, you didn't negotiate with him, you gave him 18, you feel like you come to the table with $2 million more to start with is respectful? Now, I do think that there's going to be an incentive-laden contract. I think that's something that helps out. But I don't know if anymore with how long this is going on, I could just assume that there isn't any animosity or anything in it. I hope that there's not, but I'm just not going to make that assumption at this point, just because it's like it's over a month into the negotiations. And at this point, for it to be, if Jake Fisher's reporting is accurate and up to date, because sometimes Fisher be going on stuff that he heard weeks ago, or he gets stuff a little bit late. And no offense to him, that's everybody who does scoops. That's just a nature of the job, right? But I just wondered if it's like, if it is as copacetic as what we are hoping that it is, because I tell you what, if I'm Josh Giddey, yeah, it's still in your best interest to go ahead and negotiate with the Bulls. But if we get to the point where I'm taking a 3-year deal, I'm telling you what, at the end of that 3-year deal, when I'm back in free agency, you may not get the top shot at me unless you're coming with the most money.
Well, I think that's the thing too, though, right? Like, this is hey, look, if we're the Bulls, are we going to attach ourselves to a half a season of what we saw from Giddey? Now, is that who Giddey's been overseas? Is that who Giddey's been when he's gotten the best opportunity to be the number one guy or to be the main guy handling the ball? 100%. Like, I think that Josh Giddey has an argument for his $30 million of, hey, look, y'all saw me do this in OKC. You've seen me do this when I play in FIBA. This is the player that I am. But the Bulls have only seen it for a half a season. So I understand AK's side from it as well.
Yeah, but that whole you only seen it for a half a season thing. When you sign free agents that aren't on your team, you're basing it off of everything else that you've seen about them. Everybody, like, and I get what you're getting at with that. But people who say things like and use that, well, they only did it for half a season. So what are you saying? When we sign a free agent that's an unrestricted free agent that we're bringing to the team, are we saying, oh, we don't know anything that he's done? No, you are absolutely going to factor in what they've done other places. That, like, so I understand it from a Josh Giddey standpoint of, it's like, if you come to me saying that, well, yeah, we saw really great things from you after February last year. It's like, okay, cool. But yeah, but we're not going to ignore what I've done over my career as a whole. We're not going to ignore that.
I think that is taking a career into account. The career is, yeah, you've been cool, but you haven't been what we saw you do here on a consistent basis like you did in the second half of this season. In fact, you've been what we saw last season. You've been the guy who, when other people are on the court or other people had a ball in their hands, you're not nearly as effective. We want you to have the ball in your hands here, but we're not just going to go all in and say, hey, 30 million, whatever you ask, we're going to give it to you. Like, excuse me, I like the back and forth of it because it is like both sides have points to stand on. I do think Giddey has a leg to stand on to say it's more than just a half a season. You saw me do this every time I've gotten the solo opportunity. But I think with unrestricted free agents and things like that, when you bring that into it, usually, now I know as Bulls fans, we don't always get this, but usually you don't look at the half a season. You go, this is what this guy's done over the entirety of his career, and he's been consistent in this. Now, the Bulls don't always do that. Javon Carter
well,
is
I mean, no, you still got to factor that in, but I think that then you're factoring in everything. He's never really gotten to play the role that best suits him. And as you said, every time he has gotten to play that role,
he's been better.
He's excelled at it. Like, It's not like he just played a little bit at it. He excelled at it. So I think that, yeah, you got to factor those things in as well. Like, also, like, yeah, factor everything in. Like, factor, okay, like, yeah, but we got a player also here in Kobe that we want the ball to be in his hands a little bit more. And so what does that mean for you? Like, there's a lot that factors into that. I'm just saying that just for the people that say things like, well, he only did it for half a season. It's like, that's not what you're doing when you're negotiating.
No. And I think this is the big thing about it, right? You also have to ask yourself, what player is Josh Giddey going to be if, which it seems like to me, and I know we kind of stand on different spots on this, but it seems like they're pushing Modest Buzelis to eventually be the face of this franchise. Hey, if Modest is getting these shots, is Josh Giddey still what we saw in the second half of last season with a 20-plus points per game? Assist numbers will be high, rebound numbers will be high, but is he that level of scorer, or is he helping Modest be better? Like, you have to factor not only just what we're paying for now, which you saw last season, but the Josh Giddey that's going to be there once guys start to develop. For me, I'm fine with you having what was it, second year in the league, Giddey? It was like 16, 8 and 8 or something like that, 8 and 6. Yeah. That'd be great. I got 30. You want to know why? Because that 8 is going to be Modest and hopefully Noah Essengay sitting there adding 10 points to their points per game, right? Like, that's how, especially with how Giddey is as a point guard, you have to play it. The one thing that I think this situation is different with is usually there's one side that doesn't have a leg to stand on. Usually you're just coming in and you're like, well, it is what it is. So, like, we got to give you this money because you've been balling out. I feel like both sides have a leg to stand on in this situation. It's why you're seeing such a back and forth.
Yeah, I mean, there are arguments to be made on all sides of this, and usually that's when the best negotiations should happen, right? It's like you should be able to look at everything. All sides have their points that they're trying to make, and I guess we'll see how much each side gives up. If Fisher's reporting is correct, and it's $20 million on the Bulls side, which they're fairly firm on, $30 million on Giddey's side, which him and his agent are fairly firm on. I guess we'll see what happens there.
Hey, 20 M's over 3 years and you ball out. Yeah, you that's a win for AK for those 3 years. And we'll see what ends up happening past that. But right now you can only worry about the contract that's at hand. And I think if you can find a way to get Josh Giddey in here in under 25 million, you got to clap it up for AK. Now, if you end up losing him, he signs a qualifying offer, bets on himself and balls out, that's a different conversation. But those are things to me that those are bridges that you got to cross once you get to them.
Yeah. We'll see what those bridges are for the Chicago Bulls and where they're at and what they end up coming up with sooner rather than later, unless things are going to get ugly to a point to where because one thing that Jake L. Fisher said in that is Larry marketing. And if we remember how that and those negotiations end up going, that's a little bit worrisome there. But
Larry also got benched like
I mean, there was a lot more to that.
Right? Yeah.